Our world, as Bala Sulam explains in the end to the introduction of the book of Zohar, divides into internality and externality. We see the external world, and inside it, there is also the internal world. The difference is not like between these two forms, where one is merely smaller and the other is bigger. But in the wisdom of Kabbalah, external is that which we see. It's this world, trees, soil, the sun, clouds. This entire world, still vegetative, animate, people, stars, the whole entire universe. The wisdom of Kabbalah says that all this is the external world. Also man, in body, in this world, is external. Besides this, besides what we see, there is also the internal man and the internal world. And there is science of this world, which is called the external science or external sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, zoology, geography, and so on. And there is a science of the inner world, which is called the inner science, or the wisdom of Kabbalah. What's the difference between the two? The difference is that the outer world is an exact replication of the inner world. The only difference is that the inner world is concealed, hidden, and the external world is revealed to us. If we want to achieve inner life, independent of our body, independent of all that happens with us in this world, not to be born, get old, die, undergo the different events and occurrences of this life, if we want to live a more inner life, we have to reach the inner world. But when we reveal the inner world, we reveal that there is an even more inner world. And behind that inner world, the more we advance, the deeper we enter, we find an even more inner world. And behind that more inner world, we find an even more inner world. And thus, it turns out that besides our world, which is the world of Asiyah, we have the world of Yetzirah, B'riyah, the world of Atzilut, and the world of Adam Kadmon, and the world of Ein Sof, of infinity. And it's the innermost world, the hiddenmost world. And there is our root. That is the place from which we've developed down to this great, big, but very coarse world. And from this world, we have to enter deeper and deeper inside into the spiritual world. It is the innermost world. It's the most concealed world. But when we reach it, we feel that it is the greatest of them all. That one is great in matter, and the innermost world is great according to its eternal, whole, and perfect forces. The Kabbalists that want to explain to us what love is, they give us an example of love of fish. To love fish, it means to eat fish, loving to use them, and that's it. To live as a fish, it means to be satisfied by what you have. We see that this life is a very simple life of self-sustenance. To eat, and as if half asleep, to be that way. To reproduce according to the inner urge of nature, and that's that. And this is also how we have to refer to our whole life. That truly, a person who reaches despair of this whole world, and in this whole world, he has an insipid flavor in all his senses. He starts revealing that his attitude towards this whole world and everyone, it's love of fish. They can't fulfill him, but there's something else beyond this, where probably there is love, true love. And then he starts to reveal from the internality of his heart that there is something beyond this world that he is attracted to, that he gets his fulfillment from there in endless power, intensity, and place. Then the sensation of love breaks through, encompasses a person entirely. Thus that in this final love, when a person achieves the final degree of his development, which is called the degree of love, by this he encompasses the whole world, including the whole world inside him still, vegetative, animate, speaking, all people, all souls, and thus starts to understand that from love of other, achieving the love of the Creator is his final degree of development, and this is actually what we're drawn to in our search in this world. And all of our searches, all of our frustration, all of our thoughts, even subconsciously, are towards this love existing between man and the Creator. And when we look at fish or the animals, we have to understand that for the time being, we're in the same feeling, on the same degree. And bit by bit, lately, there is a deficiency revealed in humanity to reach the degree of the love of the Creator, the eternal and so-called whole love.
This is how our souls are. They're interconnected, but we don't feel the connection. In front of us are magnets. They're drawn to each other, and they're in such balance that each one is seemingly disconnected to the other one. But if we will take a human being from all of humanity, and they'll want to connect to the others, he only needs to move himself slightly towards the others, and everyone will begin to connect to him. And in such a way, we can connect all of the people together. and then we will be as one. When we'll cling together, we'll form this connection with each other, and through our connectivity, where each one annuls himself towards the general, each one acquires the strength, the force of everyone together. He is responsible for everyone to be in adherence, and he himself receives the force of adherence from everyone, and the force between them is the force of love. And it's enough that only one activates it, and all the rest will be in the same direction. And from this connection between them, this one great force is formed, and it begins to feel something higher, and it wants to connect to them. And then they reach adhesion with the upper force, with the Creator. But until we won't discover ourselves interconnected, just like these magnets here, the upper force will not be revealed. It wants and is intended to be revealed only to everyone together.
Man is on the speaking degree. The speaking level means that all of his desires, the entire concentration of his thought, are in between his breath and brain, where the brain gives an order, and all the 5 parts of the lungs and the palate and the throat realize, implement these things, and what comes out is sound. These orders to make sound could be in the form of letters, and it can be in the form of sounds. The letters which we make, they're similar to the written letters. On a white background, we create deficiencies by black ink. Same thing here. We can make the letters of the melody if we create deficiencies, pauses within the flow of our breath. There are deficiencies here, holes. When I close them or open them, it's the same as if I make the form of a letter. By this I can pass on my emotion to whomever is my partner, or I want him to be a part of my inspiration, of the inspiration which I feel. Thus, whether it is to write and create a deficiency on a white page by black ink, or creating deficiencies by stopping the airflow in a flute, is one and the same. And thus when I play, I make the same form of letters in the air instead of making them on paper. A melody is something much more abstract. It's much closer to man's heart. It needs no translation. Plenty of people, millions, can listen and be inspired. A melody could be sad or happy, innerly fulfilled by different qualities and attributes, meaning to pass on, convey many things it could teach a person. We see a person starts listening, he's moved, he becomes happy, or he starts crying, suddenly the legs start jumping. Sounds affect us much better, much stronger than the spoken language. Thus, Kabbalists started using musical instruments a very long time ago. David's violin is well known, and many other ancient melodies, the songs that are recomposed. We have only the words to his songs, but not the melody which he used to perform. And many other Kabbalists who wrote many songs and melodies, and let's hope that we will reveal them soon. To the extent to which we will achieve their degree and identify ourselves with them, to the extent to which you reach the degree of the Kabbalist, the place in which he was while he wrote that melody are also included in that place, and you hear. So may we simply rise in spiritual degrees, and on each and every degree hear the melodies of the Kabbalists, enjoy them, and ascend by them.
Life begins in the mother's womb. There, we are comprised of this drop of semen, and we begin to develop. If a person wants to enter the spiritual life, he first has to go through the 9 months of pregnancy. He enters this spiritual system as an embryo. What does he need for that? He needs to be as an embryo in the upper, meaning not to disturb the upper, just like an embryo in his mother's womb. He doesn't disturb her. The mother develops it, and the embryo does nothing on behalf of himself. He's entirely under her control. Likewise, a grown-up who is smart and wise and knows everything, if I want to reach a higher degree, then I must nullify myself and be as an embryo. Turn me into a great man there in a high degree. And now I'm willing to nullify myself completely, as long as it works on me. And then I'm included in the upper one. I'm nullified towards the upper one. And no matter what it will do to me, I accept it, receive it from him, and I grow by it. Meaning, I'm comprised by these upper forces that flow through me as blood, which in Hebrew comes from the word domem, still, because I'm not disturbing this process, just allowing it to work on me. And then these states go by, which are called the 9 months of pregnancy. The birth in that same spiritual world is exiting the state I've been closed up in. I haven't participated in anything the upper one has done. I just accepted it all, and now I begin to participate in it. I begin to receive what he's been giving me. I begin to react to it. He starts playing with me, teaching me, and I receive from him and learn from him all of these things, just like a baby that is born. The grown-up takes care, of course, but I already begin to feel him. And most importantly is that I am constantly attracted and I demand the milk from him. I want it. I live from it. What is this milk in comparison to the blood? Milk I demand for myself, and I cry out when it's not given to me. If I don't want it, I reject it. If I do want it, I demand it. The milk, when I receive it, then I suckle it, I take it forcefully, and I digest it internally. From it, I transform into my natural substance, blood. So the blood remains my substance, but I connect to the upper one and receive from it the higher lights called milk from a higher degree. And from feeding, I'm willing to receive from the upper his milk. Milk is me bina, meaning the upper one teaches him how to be more bestowing, more loving, to accept all of the creation as part of its own, just like the Creator treats the creation. Likewise, he teaches man to treat it the same way. And a person who begins to learn this from the Creator is considered an infant that already receives milk until he grows up. Then there's kindergarten, school, the academy, and it's all opened up for a person in the spiritual world. And he's taught. The forces come by. They teach my soul all of these wisdoms, and I advance and advance until I become great. Great according to what? According to that same drop of semen, but the spiritual drop. And I have to bring it from the state it came down from the world of Ein Sof, of infinity. That's where the root of my soul is. And when I reach that state, I reach the perfect state and reach equivalence with the Creator. And that is man's purpose.
Here we have the Tower of David, a part of Old Jerusalem. And if we look at the world this way, we see this picture, the picture we know, that which we perceive in our five senses. But we do not understand where is this hidden force that turns the world. We only feel that everything comes and turns and goes in way of cause and consequence, changes from one stage to the next, according to some plan that we maybe don't know, by some powers that we don't feel, by this hidden force which both operates us from within and everything outside us, around us. I see the picture of the world. Constantly the world around me is changing. Good, bad news. Where, how, where does it come from? Where is it headed? What does nature or the Creator want from me? How are all the parts which seem to me unconnected are connected? I meet different things in the world, I see them, I pass through them. I don't know why is this all happening with me. It's passing by me. The wisdom of Kabbalah makes this world transparent. I start seeing into this picture. I identify the acting force in the world, and then all of the ties that exist between all the parts of the picture become evident to me, between here and here and here and here. Look what's going on here, and how you have to pass the thread from one place to another, the connections between the different parts. Why does one pass into the other? When I see this picture both from the outside and from the inside, turns out that it's not only that I see what is happening here inside me and around me, but I also start understanding why is it happening, and then I start to understand the acting mind in creation, and I start seeing the process. Where did it start? With which intention? Where is it headed? Why does it unfold the way it does in me and all of creation, from one generation to the other, from one incarnation to the next, until I reach the final state? I already identify the final state. And through this picture, I identify the working forces, and I also start identifying the final form. And then I start identifying with the acting force. I start cleaving on to it. And thus I become a partner in creation that is passing by. And all of this thanks to the wisdom of Kabbalah, which helped me penetrate this picture. And not to see only the corporeality, but the working force in reality. And when we reach this force that is working in reality, we see how everything that happens is wonderful. Now you can understand the Kabbalist. That you see the picture only from one side, and he sees the picture from the other side. How his perception of the world and understanding and his calculations are different from your understanding and calculations. What is Noah's Ark? What does this parable tell us about? What does it have to remind us about? It's supposed to remind us that we're in one small ark, and the world, it's not in vain that it seems to us ever smaller, as a small village, because we're more interconnected. Place is limited, you can easily reach every place. And this is actually what the Torah tells us about. It tells us that all of humanity is actually under one roof. All the fish and animals and beasts and chicken and birds and people and their food, we're all in one small ark. Regardless that instead of a small family, we're now 7 billion people. Doesn't matter. The house, it stays a house. And we have no place to escape to from this ark. And whoever wants to escape immediately falls into the malicious waters and has no chance of being saved from death. But only if we're together in one ark, where all of us are interconnected, where we all understand that all in all, we are created by one upper force, and we have to be together, interconnected in mutual understanding and recognition, and even in reciprocal love. Only on this condition can we be saved from the waters of the flood, otherwise they'll wash us and we'll have no chance of being saved. The ark itself, the walls, as strong as they are, it will protect us only if we'll make sure that inside the lions and the chicken and the fish and the birds and also people, all of us understand that in order to be saved, we have to be mutually connected in reciprocal love, in mutual responsibility and guarantee, in Hebrew called arvut. And then this upper force called Mei Binah, the Creator, this force guards us, and then we're protected and we can be saved from all of the evil which exists in the malicious waters.
Our soul, which needs to adhere to the Creator, is composed of 5 desires. From the inside outwards, they're called mocha, atzamot, gidin, basar, or. And or, skin, is the last part of the desire, the thickest. And we process the inner part of it and turn it into parchment. And that's how people used to write. What did they write with? With a pen. And this pen comes to us from the living also, from the feather. So you take the feather, you process it correctly, and then you write with black ink on the white parchment. What does the letter symbolize? A letter is a symbol. It's a symbol of the actions of the light on the desire. So, if it symbolizes the actions of the light on the desire, then the white light seemingly should be what we write with, or with white ink on the black parchment. Why is it the opposite? Black ink and white parchment. It's because we ourselves write from within. Therefore, we raise the parchment. We want that desire to be entirely to bestow. And then, from blackness, it turns entirely into white. We have the inner part of the letter, the white part. We have the external part, outside of the letter, which is also white. And the letter, this black symbol, is in the middle. And this letter explains to me what we learn externally and internally, and it teaches me according to its symbol. Therefore, our entire spiritual education is through letters. Through the letters, the Kabbalists tell us about the upper wisdom. Through the letters we read, we enter this inner wisdom. And it turns out that these letters, these symbols, a person has to write upon himself, upon his own skin, upon his own worst, most desires, which is the final degree that he bleaches into parchment. And after all the corrections of the parchment, he begins to see his attitude to the Creator, to the upper light, and he sees the gap between them. So it turns out that he starts writing letters from the beginning until the end. All the letters, all the words we have in the Bible. And it says in the Torah that there's a precept that each one has to write his own book of Torah, meaning he has to correct himself in such a way that his entire heart, meaning his entire desire, will receive all the letters in the Torah. And then man is included in the Creator.
Everyone knows the story about Pinocchio. A carpenter took a block of wood and turned it into a doll. The doll felt the point in the heart that it is lacking something, and thus it started searching for a different world, another world. He found out that behind the screen, where he's living, where he was born, there's a door to another world, to a magical world, but that he doesn't have the key. He dedicated his life to find that key. He was simply searching. He thought that anyone might have the key, the fox, the wolf, the wicked, anyone. He saw that they have no key, but that the key is really next to him. And when he found the key and came behind the screen, he opened the door, he revealed the magical world, and there he found himself. Alive, with a living heart, and truly, because he advanced towards this goal innocently, himself understanding that he is a block of wood, but he protected the point in his heart and advanced with it. We are in the same situation. We have a world. We have to feel that behind this world there is a screen. To look at the screen this way, like this, and to see that there is a door there. The door is locked. You have to find the key for the lock. You can find the key only on condition that we do not consider ourselves to be smarter than Pinocchio and simply look for the key to the magical world. We have a lot to learn. A very wise man is he who makes himself simple. We think that we're free people, standing strong in this world with both feet on the ground, We're confident, we can do everything, we have the knowledge, we feel, we operate the whole world. Each one of us is great, understanding, sensing, independent. But bit by bit, a different picture is revealed to us. That all in all of our actions are being operated from above. I don't feel these strings that are constantly operating me. I turn, I check things out, there's a great big world ahead of me. I want to conquer it, turn it, but I don't remember, and I don't understand, and I don't feel that I'm being operated and activated from above. If on every step that I take, there's a thread from above tied to my mind and heart, where am I then? So Kabbalah explains to us that you don't exist in this whole operating system. You're being operated. But you have freedom in only one thing: to agree with this activation, to study this operation, to want to perform the very same actions that are performed upon you from above, and not to stand in the way of the upper providence. The moment you do what they tell you to, you succeed. Why? Because you will go along with the upper wisdom. With the upper wisdom, not with your own reason. And this is your freedom, and this is the best possible secure state for you to advance in life and succeed in everything corresponding to the upper wisdom. And if so, you will ascend up to the upper wisdom in degrees and connect to the one operating you, and then you shall be great and tall, and not the poor little thing not knowing how will life end. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, we won't find the word pyramid, but we will find a law, which is the opposite value of lights and vessels. Like in our world, the beautiful, good, chosen, precious things, they occupy only little space in this world. And the big, coarse things, they occupy this entire corporeality, the matter that fulfills most of the pyramid. That's how it is with the still. How many diamonds do you have compared to rocks? How much gold do you have compared to iron? Also, with those that yearn, aspire for spirituality. There are plenty of people who engage in philosophies, different cultures, religions, different methods of limiting themselves and purifying themselves by meditations, mysticisms, and so on. And only the upper peak understands that not by the different means and tools of this world is it possible to achieve spirituality, but spirituality is achieved only by man's inner development above his corporeal nature. And these great ones who are at the peak of the pyramid, they are the ones who are in contact with upper force, receive all the light from him, and then they disperse it and bestow that upper light to all the rest of the souls that are here in the width, the thickness of the pyramid. The purpose of creation is that eventually this whole human pyramid, even the small, the little ones with the undeveloped desire, with the undeveloped qualities, they too will ascend to the peak, and all of us shall be as one man in one heart, equal. Thus, as opposed to everything happening in our world, the spiritual pyramid, it exists only throughout the process of advancing towards the goal. But when we reach the goal, when each one reaches the goal, then this pyramid turns into a ball. And from that point on, everyone is equal. From that point on, everyone is equally important. Thus, we have to respect and love and to connect to all of our teachers, these unique people, the Kabbalists from all generations, starting with Abraham and up to Bala Sulam and the Rabash, who are here in this high place connected to the Creator, and through them, through their souls, they bring down the light to all of our souls. And with their help, we hope that we shall also reach that same connection to the Creator. The greatest question, the greatest magic in our world is time. If we look at nature, still, vegetative, living, they don't feel time the way we do. Even an undeveloped human being, he doesn't feel time as if something is really happening in life. He flows with time. What does to flow mean? The same as water flow, like sand flows. You see, whatever spills will never return. And a person feels that. He feels the past, the present, and the future. He wants to be connected to the past, and he wants to know the future. And the more developed a person is, the more he starts feeling that he's concerned about the idea of time. It flows, it passes. What's going to happen to me? What was the goal of all these moments that went by? What is the meaning in life? That which I have left here above, that's it. And every moment it flows. Each and every moment I'm emptied. And the moment it will all pour down, my life comes to an end. And I'm sitting and I'm calmly looking at it. A person can't do that. The idea of time that awakens in us, it obliges us to do something about our lives. And thus, people who develop from one generation to the next, the more they develop, they come to this big problem of what is the meaning in life? What am I living for? What's going to happen with my life? What about the time that I have left? Less and less. How can I stop it? How can I squeeze here in order for it not to... I can't. What can I do? Meaning that time, it's not that it ticks and it's over. The question is, how can I, during my lifetime, come out of this life, which is defined by time, into a world which is timeless, to bring ourselves into eternity, wholeness and perfection, if I use that which I was given here in a good and useful manner, then I can do it. I can achieve this. Kabbalah says that it's something simple. You have a special vessel, the beginning of the soul, which is called a part of godliness from above. This kli, this vessel, the ability to perceive an entirely new life, the same as you've developed from a drop of semen into a human being, the very same way you can develop from this spiritual drop of semen to become a spiritual being. The same as you're a corporeal person to be a spiritual person in the upper world, and it's possible. We have the ability to go above this life and achieve eternal life. Time, until it's over. Let's use it. Do you know what a ship is? It's like Noah's Ark. Why were those who were in Noah's Ark saved from the waters of the flood? All the animals were there, even those that are opposed to each other, that eat each other in nature. But there they lived all together in order to be saved from the waters of the flood. The example which the Torah gives us here is an example for all times. We, humanity, are in one ship. And each one has a place here. Whether we like it or not, we're in the ship, and this ship is our small planet Earth. But the problem is that each one wants to use the others in his own favor, for his small, miserable self, who wants to take for himself anything that crosses his path in life on account of others, and thus he as if drills a hole in the ship, next to his place of living, exactly where he's standing. And through there, waters come in and can sink the entire ship. We understand. Everyone today understands that if man's nature will change for the better, then we will be able to help each other and be saved. In our small ship, on our small planet Earth, at the edge of this small galaxy and this huge universe, if we want to stay alive, we have to know how to get along together. We still have a chance to straighten out the ship and to sail it nicely through life upon the great big waves and to come to a haven. Wine makes glad the heart of man. What's so gladdening about it? In the wisdom of Kabbalah, happiness means the reception of the light of bestowal, which opens up the vessel to the revelation of the Creator. And thus, wine, our wine, is called Pri Chacham, a sage's fruit. The light of Chokhmah, the light of wisdom, is wine. From the whole process of making wine, we learn how much a person has to care and work with it in order to reach a state where from a bunch of grapes you get wine. And all this symbolizes for us the process of correction a person undergoes in his vessels in order to achieve a fulfillment called the light of Chokhmah. And along with this degree being extremely exalted, it is also very hard to achieve, since on this degree one can go astray, and instead of achieving gladdening wine, to come to deceitful wine, where then he loses his connection with the Creator, with reality, and falls into the shells. And thus, when we drink wine, we say L'chaim, because it's called real life, where on the one hand I receive and I'm fulfilled by the light. But my intention is that by receiving, I bring the Creator contentment, the same as He gives me, and then we reach a mutual feeling, mutual life, and that's really called life. That's why we say L'chaim, for the sake of spiritual life. So L'chaim. When we're in nature, we start thinking how beautiful and perfect everything is. And why does man come into this world and does so many bad things? Ruins nature, kills animals, litters, destroys the beautiful world that he was given. What's going on with him? Why does he want to destroy everything with his ego? And the truth is that he doesn't want to destroy everything. To begin with, he thinks that he's doing something good. The wisdom of Kabbalah explains that we see ourselves only in a small historical point, in the middle, in between the beginning and the end of development. And throughout the stages of development, we can't determine anything about ourselves. Say, let's take an apple. We have two apples here. One beautiful, red, and the other sour and small. So what's going on? If we're looking at the beginning of development of the apple, it's not even an apple like this. This is already an apple. But we see it as something small. It has a sour smell. And if we look at it, we see that this thing is uneatable. But we live next to it, and we see its gradual development, so we see how suddenly it takes on completely different shapes than to begin with, and it becomes a nice, beautiful red apple. Its smell, I'm sure that if I'll open it, then it will probably have a sweet, tasty flavor. That is the end of development, and this is the beginning of development. It's the same with man. Bala Sulam explains to us in the article of The Essence of Religion and Its Purpose that the more meritorious the developing thing is, the more complicated it is. Turns out that the form of its development is more complicated. It isn't seen to the eye that the development is for the good. And actually, the Kabbalists say that this is what is ahead of us. We must reach the good state. And what's happening to us? The very opposite to the final state. And they say, true. Why is it true? Because if we are in the nature of an apple, which develops only by the forces of nature, then it becomes a more and more ripe and red apple until it becomes red and beautiful. But if we are talking about man's development, a contradiction in terms takes place here. We have to reach the development of our evil and to decide that we're evil and we must accept the good state ourselves. Here there has to be our own decision, and thus the state prior to the red tasty state, it has to be the most sour state, opposite in size and all of its qualities. And thus, turns out that today we reveal ourselves in the worst generation, in the most corrupted generation. And this state, precisely this state, is the beautiful and worthy state in which we will decide that we can no longer keep on going this way and that we have to come out of this place, of this narrow, bitter world, into a state of a good world. And when we will decide this, we will use the wisdom of Kabbalah to turn this state into that state. On planet Earth, there are many places, many people. We all came from one place, from here. It's called Babylon. Once we were all together in one place and we dispersed from there over all of our planet. Today, there are many of us, 7 billion people. We don't understand each other, but nonetheless, we have to acknowledge that we're one family, that The planet of Earth is one place. We're interconnected, and although we're already far from the place of our origin, Babylon, nonetheless, we're in a very small place. Science, research, nature reveals to us today how interdependent we all are, how we are truly cogwheels turning each other, absolutely. And if I perform some action, by this I cause the other to perform another action, and thus each one towards all the others. To come to know this system, for us, is actually the opportunity to reach the right kind of connection between us so that each one of us will feel himself in a secure and a good world. And on the contrary, to the extent to which we will not want to come to know each other, we will reach a state where we will disregard each other, want to slaughter each other by our increasing ego, and then our world can truly reach the terrible Third World War. While we're here, in this small place, this place that you can barely see called Israel, and from here we broadcast the wisdom of Kabbalah to the whole world. Suddenly people come from South Korea or Singapore or Africa or from South America, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Canada, and America. People come to us, and of course from Europe and from Russia. We get plenty of phone calls. People ask us questions as to how can we correctly bond, how through the connection between us can we achieve the wholeness and perfection which exists only in the connection between us and one soul. I yearn to see groups covering all of our planet and all of humanity all around the world, starting to understand through the wisdom of Kabbalah the power encompassing all of Earth that is working on it and wants to take all of humanity and raise it to a spiritual dimension. It is in our ability to do so, and I'm sure that we will come to it through the powers that are revealing to us now in every country and all over the world. Today, all of us read from the computer. We don't write letters, but we send email. We watch television and movies, which are also electronic. Everything's electronic. As if man has no need for paper. And although we still make newspapers, however, people are more and more attracted to what they see on the screen. Kabbalists used paper, a scroll, wood, or rock in order to write on it, in order to write what they have, since the written letters have a special power. And thus, a book will never lose its value, its importance, at least not the books which have to do with the spiritual inner wisdom. In them, a person will find the internality which exists, lays in between the letters and the words, something which he will not be able to find on the screen. Why? Because this substance, the matter out of which a book is made of, and the written letters, they're against the spiritual root of book, author, story. The thought of creation and all which stems from it in the final correction, the whole process we undergo, and the happy end we come to where we reach Him and cleave on to Him, all this appears in the stories. Not to look at the wisdom that's written here, but to achieve Him, to cleave on to Him, to take on His attributes, to take His place, to achieve His thought, the thought of the author, which is the Creator. This is wheat. Wheat grains. It's food. But it's not food for humans. It's food for beasts. Man can't eat it. Man has to process his main food, which is wheat, and to turn it into flour. How do you make flour? You make flour with a grindstone, which is turned by a donkey. The beast turns the grindstone, and from food intended for beasts, you get food for humans, but that's still not enough. We have to add to the flour water and other ingredients, bake it, and get bread. And that's food for humans. Also we, when we want to achieve food for man, the upper light, we have to work with our matter, with our body, and to turn and turn the grindstone in order to grind on the inside all of our corporeal food, this world, all of its troubles, all of our thoughts and desires, to grind and grind them in order to get out of it something which is suitable for the spiritual degree of man. And to do that, we have to close our eyes and not to look at what we're doing. When a donkey turns the grindstone, his eyes are being closed and it gets a sack of wheat grains to eat. Then it does what it has to do. We have to perform the same work on ourselves. We have to take our life and grind it in order to elevate it, raise it to a higher degree, closing our eyes, only to get something, a bit to eat in order to perform this work. If we put ourselves into such work, we achieve flour. Working with flour on a higher level is baking it. We add water to the flour. Water means the upper light, the waters of Bina, understanding, feeling, attainment. We add to what we have taken from this life, things which are necessary for the spiritual life. And then, along with the attribute of bestowal, of binah, feeling of love, after we mix all of it together, the water with the flour, we have to put it all into the oven, into the burning flame, in order to achieve the degree of Adam, man. Adam in Hebrew means to be similar to the Creator. And when we bake this inside us, then we achieve food which is intended for man, bread. We do all this through the work, which in our world is symbolized by wheat, flour, and bread. According to what we reveal in nature, according to the laws of nature, and also according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, bit by bit we're getting to know our system, that the world is small and round, and all of its parts are interconnected, and whether we want it or not, we're all turning together, interconnected. If something happens in one place in the world, immediately or after some time it's felt in another place in the world. Everybody knows what the butterfly effect is. If a butterfly moves its wings in one place, then in another place 1,000 miles away, the result is felt for sure. Thus, we're as cogwheels, interdependent, whether we want it or not. Only our problem is that we don't want to turn together with everyone. Each one wants to be independent. I want to be free of everyone. I don't care. I'm going to rest someplace in India. I'm going on an adventure, and that's that. And another person thinks that it's preferable for him to be on top. And those here think that equality between men and women is for them to perform the same roles. So they go against nature and turn in a different direction. And someone else demands some conditions that he doesn't deserve from society and according to the way the system works, but he thinks that he deserves it. That's how he feels, and thus each one as if turns in a different direction, and as a result we stop this system that nonetheless exists and turns, but we're constantly putting spikes in the wheels and it stops, can't turn. We even want it to turn the other way, and thus our human system works in a very incorrect way, damaged way, where any stoppage that we make, we later feel as suffering. People, friends, let's stop putting spikes in the wheels. Let's let nature take its course. Let's acknowledge the law of nature, the general law of nature, which is love of others. If we will let this system work correctly, let's just learn how it does it. In a nice way, in a good way, in an easy way. How good we will all feel. We will not demand more or less. Each one will receive exactly what he needs. We see that we can't change our destiny. We can't change our faith. We'll go along with it, and as a result, we'll reach comfort, happiness, security, abundance for each and every one, and this is our only savior. Because we know that this system exists, and it's turning, and only if we do not stand in its way will be astonished and inspired by its perfect work. Let's learn nature and go with it. What does it mean to be free? We see that if certain nation conquers another nation, then that nation goes into struggle and they break free, and then they regret it, that previously things were better. Like the people of Israel, they came out of Egypt and then they started regretting it. We had everything there. We had food and everything was ready and organized, and we went into the desert. So, is desert freedom compared to what we had back then? Maybe to prefer the drink and the food and everything's ready, and to be in a cage compared to the freedom where I have nothing and I have to look for everything myself. When does a person really feel that he doesn't want to be a slave any longer? He's ready to get rid of it and he doesn't care what's ahead. He hates slavery and he's prepared to accept anything but that, and this is how we advance from small slavery to greater slavery. Today we're greater slaves than 50 years ago. When I was young, I was told in 50 years people will work only a few hours a day, maybe 2-3 hours, and the rest you'll have time for culture and education and going on trips, and the person will be free. 50 years later, I see the high-tech people working for 12 hours a day. They don't feel that they can ever get out of all of this slavery, ever. And what did we come to? We've achieved the very opposite than the freedom we were thinking about. Today, we're in a small world, a global village, and I see there's no place to escape to. I've limited myself. Instead of a field, a forest, instead of being free, I limited myself to some condo in the midst of a neighborhood. And where's the freedom? Don't have any freedom. The kids are going to kindergarten, school, university, me to work, the bank, the this, the that, everything is organized. A person isn't free. On television you're told what you have to eat and everything is ready. Even food, you put it into the microwave oven, you heat it up, everything's ready. And whereas man, he was as if given everything, but he was actually closed in an even smaller cage than before with no place to escape to. The feeling of this restriction, this cage, this prison, it reduced to such an extent that it's starting to put pressure on my heart. And my heart can no longer be free. It can't pump. It can't beat freely. And thus, we come to a state where we simply reduce ourselves to a life of misery. Probably this whole feeling of diminution, of restriction and limitation comes in order to push us into a new place, in order for us to want to get out, to leave this world at any price, like it was during the Exodus from Egypt. That is the example for being free, where you disregard everything, you hate everything, you're ready to get rid of everything, to escape from this beautiful cage, the golden cage, fulfilled with all the good possible things, and we need only one thing: to be free of actually our ego, our nature, that encompasses us inside this cage. When a person reveals, finds what exactly is he supposed to be free of, then he finds the path where the freedom is, and he feels that the freedom is something internal. It doesn't matter that I live in this world. My feeling has to be internal, that I don't depend on anyone, that I'm free inside in my own free inner world. And then he finds out that it's not about breaking outwards. There's nothing outside in the universe and all this space, but to break inwards into the heart. And then when he opens it up, then he feels that the great, free, infinite dimension is in his internality and not in all that is around him. And it's all up to man. Here, we open the door for the bird to go free. We also have to identify that hand that can open for us the door to freedom. All in all, the bird depends on man, but man depends on the Creator. And it only depends on his request whether the Creator will open the door for him or not. The beginning is the whole secret. Where did everything come from? From an egg? From a hen? The hen and the egg were born together. At the very point where the world begins, there is everything. In the very egg exists the whole future hen. In a drop of semen exists man. May he become great, develop. Everything was already there in the very first drop of semen. How can we get into that drop, into that egg, in order to know what is the future life of that drop? The wisdom of Kabbalah explains. It tells us that the only thing that is supposed to come out of this drop is man, Adam, from the Hebrew meaning Domeh le'Elokim, to be like the Creator. How can we constantly grow, not as a bigger and bigger human being, because that's actually the beast which is growing. How can we get out of this egg something more, a spiritual addition, so we won't simply grow up to be a human being, live for 70 years and finish his life, but for him to achieve eternity? We have to give that drop spiritual nourishment. We have to add to it so as to build man's spiritual body. What is that nourishment? We're told that it is the upper light. By affecting the drop, it grows and grows it, extends it. Man in whom this drop starts to expand, in that extended drop, in this inner balloon which is created inside him, he starts feeling spiritual life in it. A whole entire great big spiritual world is created inside him. He starts identifying with it. In it, he starts sensing, feeling a different life. And along with the living human comes also the spiritual man. And even though the physical body comes to an end after 70 years, the spiritual man that began from that drop continues forever. So everything is inside the egg. Only how can we find the starting point of spiritual development and to influence it by the upper light? We're told that this point awakens in a person. He doesn't have to worry about it. He develops and develops, and on one of his incarnations, he starts feeling that I want something outside, beyond my corporeal development. It means that that inner point starts to awaken and demand its development. Only now you have to nourish it so it can develop. And then, when a person is ready, then from all the seemingly random opportunities in life, he gets an opportunity to discover the wisdom of Kabbalah. And if he understands that one comes against the other, that the method of Kabbalah is precisely in order to develop that spiritual point, then a nice and good connection takes place and a person starts developing himself, and he becomes a man, Adam from the Hebrew, meaning similar to the upper.
Everyone wants to know, what are reincarnations? What was I, who was I, in previous incarnations, in previous life? Will I reincarnate? People think they used to be either a tree or an animal or certain human beings, and each one imagines himself as he was something great. A person doesn't agree with the fact that he lives and that his life just comes to an end. Doesn't agree to finish this life and have nothing remaining after it. And although our lives are very difficult, no one wants to leave it. And the wisdom of Kabbalah tells us that there are reincarnations. We come into this world, we are clothed in the body, and live with it, just like with this nice shirt here. And then we throw it to the laundry. In the next incarnation, we have again a soul clothed in the body. Again, we live in this shirt. And again, we throw it in the laundry. But the question is, what are all of those reincarnations for? Even though they exist, and even if I know about them, what remains in me? The I is not the shirt. The I is the internality of the shirt. That is the soul. Our problem is that we're only thinking of the cleanliness of the shirt in our life, how it will hold on to its status. But we're not thinking about the fact that our soul is reclothed and clothed over and over again into these bodies to reach something, to achieve something. To that, we have no connection, and that is the problem. There, inside, that is what is important, more important than the shirt itself. So let's talk about that. Let's take care of that. So, from all of these reincarnations, we'll have a good result. You there, think about what's in the shirt. That's where the human being is, his soul clothed in the body. And this shirt will be thrown in the laundry again.
I think that everyone knows that our world is really aspiring for democracy. Everyone wants to be free. There is a constant, ongoing struggle, women against men, for freedom, the freedom of choice, freedom of identity. In short, everything is about freedom, freedom, freedom. Is this thing correct according to nature? According to the wisdom of Kabbalah, all of us are like cogwheels. Anyone who's turning is turning all the others, and when all are turning together, they turn each one in particular. Meaning that if a certain wheel, let's say the small red one, comes out of its place and doesn't want to turn with the others, it wants to turn faster or in a different direction, then it simply does nothing. Because it is possible to operate all of nature in one's faith only if one turns with all the others. So he has to try and find his place among others until he finds it. And then his good desire for sure will enter the cycle of all the other wheels, and to a certain extent will change them. And it's not in vain that it says that when sentences himself, he sentences the entire world to a scale of merit. And don't think that you're small and you can't change. You can change the cycle of all the wheels, and by this you determine. And this is truly each and everyone's freedom to examine oneself and to examine the system and know where it's headed and to realize oneself in the best possible way. Thus, in our time, the Kabbalah books are revealed to us, and they teach us how the whole system has to turn, how all the cogwheels have to turn in a good and nice way, how they all have to be interconnected in the right direction, and we all achieve happiness and general tranquility.